You're listening to Crossing Borders with ANYP for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANYPodcast or visit us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me solid through and through, and so jiggle over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky soul still have me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Crossing Borders with ANYP. I am your host, Shane, and I am joined, as always, by Connor. Connor, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing well. How excited are you with the fact that football season is actually here? You and LJ seem like you were on cloud nine for this.
Oh, absolutely. We always are. It's not close enough, though. 20 days is not close enough.
20 days does not feel close enough when we are watching or forced to watch Philadelphia Phillies baseball. So I will give you guys that. This might be the first time in years where I can be this excited for Eagles football purely because I'm disgusted by Phillies baseball. I am.
It's so true. So true. I mean, it does break my heart today that Richard Rodgers went down at training camp, got stretchered off in tears. So that was kind of sad to see. But
yeah,
nothing sadder than Phillies baseball.
No, it isn't. I still haven't heard the extent of any of the Richard Rodgers stuff, but for those of you who don't listen, he or had not listened to your latest Kelly Green Hour, I think you and L both had him pegged as a possibility as making this team as the fourth tight end there, and playing some sets both as a tight end and as a receiver.
Yeah, I think we had him as a third. I don't think we gave them taking four tight ends because they got those. Yeah, the tough decisions to make at other positions where you could add the extra body, but. Yeah, I felt he had a chance to make it more than Joshua Perkins, and now Perkins gets a chance again. Again.
But then again, I'm cool with all these training camp battles. I'm cool with the sitting here and wondering who's going to fill out number 50, 51, 52, and 53 on this roster right now. I am more interested and invested emotionally in that than I am than the garbage that is the Philadelphia Phillies. But for those of you guys who are first-time listening here at Crossing Borders, so one of the things that we had heard from a first-time listener last week, Connor, was the fact that they had no idea what to expect from our show, and we just started talking. So for any new listeners, we will do a quick recap as to what this show kind of entails for you. That way you can decide whether or not you will totally, absolutely, 100% listen to the remainder of the show. Crossing Borders is where Connor and I select 4 vague topics throughout the week that we sit there and we talk about together. We each prepare tweets based on those topics, and then we give our points of views as to why we support that tweet or why we vehemently disagree with that tweet. We've each prepared tweets today for the following 4 categories. Today we went with the Phillies. We are looking for positive support for Gabe Kapler in a time when there is absolutely none. I don't know if you had difficulty scouring Twitter. I did. We're looking for reactions to Roy Hibbert being hired as a player development coach for the Philadelphia 76ers, where Claude Giroux ranks in Flyers history for you. A lot of his has been made recently of his tenure as a captain. And then now the reaction to the Eagles' new backup quarterback with possibly the greatest hair in all of football. So we got those 4 topics to go with. Connor, let's start with you. Which topic would you like to speak on first?
Let's start with the Flyers. Let's go with Claude Giroux. It's been a while since we talked Flyers hockey, and all I've been seeing all over Twitter is everyone, all the analysts out there on Twitter grading the Flyers offseason and complaining that they didn't do enough. So let's talk some positivity into that.
All right. I dig it. I enjoy starting this show positive, considering how few of our segments in Philadelphia sports lately have started as such. So why don't you get us going here on your support on Claude Giroux?
Perfect. So a lot of the tweets that I've seen in support of Giroux are just pointing out how how important he's been to the team and the nice company that he has currently in the last 5-10 seasons in the NHL. So Alexander Appleyard at
Great follow.
AV Appleyard. Yep. There are also only 3 players in the entire NHL who have managed to put up over 600 points over the last 8 seasons. That is Crosby 644, Kane 635, and Claude Giroux 612. Pretty nice company for the Flyers star. So, I mean, I could have found like 100 tweets like this because it's all people have been tweeting about is just the company that he's in and just the pure disgust in the fact that he was left off the top 20 centers list, although apparently that was because he's technically classified as a winger. But I mean,
which then he should theoretically be a top
20 winger, right?
A top 5 winger. I mean, how many wings are out there scoring 90 plus points, or theoretically could score 90 plus points? Like, it's not really happening. Like,
no, not at all.
How the hell? So yeah, those lists, man. Philadelphia constantly getting spanked on that. No Claude Giroux love, no Couturier love.
Yeah, they did the centers list, and I think they did their defense and the wingers, and not a Flyer in sight. It's like, wow, this is disgusting. This is shameful. Opposite of what the Eagles are getting, all the love.
That's true. It's true. Top receiving core, second best tight end, which is still ridiculous. Second best tight end corps there. Best defensive line, best offensive line. It's hilarious.
Getting it all. But I mean, I guess the main point we were trying to get was where you would rank Claude Giroux. And I thought about it, and I was going through some stats. I was thinking, and I think I would rank him at number 5 right now, with every intention of him moving further up that list. I went Bobby Clark, Bill Barber, Bernie Perron, Ron Hextall, and then I got Claude Giroux. Although Ron Hextall and what he did for the team as a manager kind of has me like, I'm trying not to let that taint my thoughts on him right now. But
he still set us up really, really well with a ton of youth and affordable prospects in an era of hockey where salary cap is going to be more important than ever.
This is true. This is the
talk about that.
This is the impatient Flyers fan in me coming out saying,
"Ooh, you rarely come out."
Yeah, very, very rarely, but I mean, you got to come out sometimes, right?
You have to.
So that would be my list of the top 5, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him hop over, like maybe the next 3-4 years, hop up to number 2, depending if he can continue with the consistency, which I have absolutely zero doubts in my mind he will. And I see no goaltender in sight that's coming after him anytime soon. We do have Carter Hart, but
got to play
plenty of years to wait on that one.
So the people of ANYP Twitter, we put out a poll on that very topic as to where Claude Giroux ranks for you, whether it be top 3, top 5, talk to me when he wins something, or just outside the top 5. 39% of the votes went to top 3, which was the highest. 31% of the votes with you, top 5, so somewhere in that 4 or 5 range. Talk to me when he wins received 14%, and just outside the top 5 received 16%. For me, I was similar to you. I went with number 4 currently in Flyers history. I had him ahead of Hextall, but I did have the same first 3 there, just in slightly different order. But you can't say enough good things about Claude Giroux, which is, for me, it's like vindication for all the years that he has been so vastly underappreciated in Philadelphia. We're now overcompensating as an entire fan base for the complete, I would say, disrespect that he has received nationally across all of hockey at this point. Philadelphia is now sitting here stating, not my captain, how the hell is he not on the top 20 centers list? And if you want to say it's because he's a wing, how is he not on the top 20 wing? Or he's top 20 in the wingers. What was he, 16, 14, something like that? I don't know how he wasn't top 10. But it's different to see the tone that is coming for Claude Giroux now. And I can't put my finger as to why this is turned around. Are we rallying because we feel the disrespect of Philadelphia Flyers hockey over the last decade? I can't figure it out. This is a guy who Philadelphia had a very Andre Iguodala-like relationship with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know. I've always loved Claude Giroux. He's been my favorite Flyer over the last 10 years probably. And I mean, nobody even compares. So he's always been like, when people started to rally around him, I was like, you're just deciding to rally around him. Like, he's been here. He's been underappreciated for so long. He's been putting up those numbers. He's been in that fine company for 5+ years now. Like, where did this all of a sudden come from that people are like, oh my God, Claude Giroux? Like, first of all, can we speak to the fact that 14% of people actually voted, talk to me when he wins something? That's right. The disrespect right there. So you see that there is out there a fan base that believes if you don't have a ring or you don't have a championship, that you cannot be full on respected. But Claude Giroux will go down with a Stanley Cup or without a Stanley Cup, a top 5, for some top 10, for some top 3 Philadelphia Flyer in history. And it will be a hell of a time to unseat him from whatever position he goes in when his career is over.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things you mentioned earlier is the fact that he has the desire to continue to play, and he has the legs so far to be able to do it. Over the last several years, he's been nothing but durable his entire career. And knock on wood, knock on something, knock on anything, because we do need him out there for the 80+ games this season that he's going to dress and put the skates on. But he's a guy who shows no signs of slowing down. At his age 31 season, to score 100 and whatever points, 102 points, whatever it was that year, that's not something you typically see, a guy who breaks that 100-point mark at that time in his career for the first time, especially when you consider some of the line mates that he's played with throughout the duration of his career. He is only getting better. He is refining those skills. And he did that with a coach who I don't always think best utilized him. And I think at times probably hampered some of what his total point production or value to a team could have been, specifically because you could lean on him in so many different areas of the ice. You had to rely on him to kill penalties. You had to rely on him to win the biggest of faceoffs, that you had. You had to rely on this guy for so damn much. He was a center, then he was a wing, then he was a center again. I don't understand how people can take a look at that type of player at this stage of his career who seems to not be slowing down and sit there and say, talk to me when we win something. It makes no sense to me.
It's without a doubt. I mean, you look at some people who are starting to give up or starting to lose out or fade away, and this guy continues to remain in some really fine company. I mean, Sidney Crosby is not fine, but I mean, we do know that he's elite. The Mike Trout scale there for hockey. Like you have to pick someone to compare someone to. You're going to sit there and you're going to say Sidney Crosby. You're going to sit there, you're going to say there's very few names. And at this point, I almost believe that Claude Giroux should be a point on that scale, because he's right there. He's a top 5 in the league right now. I mean, I think we tend to forget, because so many people come into the league and people are like, oh, this guy's going to be top 5, or this guy's a top 5.
The Connor McDavid, the Jack
Eichel,
like
the Connor McDavid and stuff. And it's like, well, Connor McDavid hasn't reached the point in his career that Claude Giroux is at. So, I mean,
he's been in the league for 3 years.
Exactly. So you can speak highly of Connor McDavid because he is an incredible hockey player, and at this point is looking to be in a similar situation to Claude Giroux, as retiring without a ring. But he's not disrespected. He's not underappreciated by any means. But somehow Claude Giroux, who's at the top of almost 75% plus statistical categories that are important in the NHL, and he is disrespected and completely forgot.
So I think a big part of it is, and as we're sitting here talking about it, I'm sitting here mulling over the reasons as to why I think the fan base is now jumping on his side versus the times where they were overly critical of him and kind of put his on-ice talent and production and productivity under a microscope. For years, we sat there and we looked at a roster that always looked deep, whether it was just the forwards, just the defense. We had adequate goaltending, so we thought somewhere along these lines, this team over the last, since he came into hockey in 2008, I want to say 2008 or 2009, this team should have won. They or should at least be far more I don't know, respected to the point than they've been over the last 12 years, 13 years. They haven't warranted that at any point. And a lot of that goes down to the guy who wears the C, unfairly so. But there was that criticism there. Now we got this donkey of a hockey team over the last 4 years. We don't have any true talent, blue chip talent outside of Jake Voracek, no matter how much people want him out of here for contractual reasons, not necessarily skill set reasons. Sean Couturier now, but certainly not the first 5-6 years of his career. He was good. He was not superstar or great. Claude Giroux now is being appreciated because he's kind of carrying a donkey of a team, and he is part of a core and leadership group right now with, again, Jake Voracek, Sean Couturier, Wayne Simmons while he was here in the last several years. That was kind of it. And I think we grew closer to him in those years because it was the only thing to cheer for. Him getting that 100-point mark was the only thing to cheer for.
Absolutely. We're a team that's been stuck in mediocrity, so you have to find something at this point to cheer for, and you can sit there and you can cheer for Claude Giroux and you can like Claude Giroux, because how can you not like that guy? He is a true leader, and even through all the Hextall stuff, he stood there and he was able to be the Connor of the Flyers, the power of positivity for the ANYP team. He was that for the Flyers. You could lean on him. You're damn right I'm going to self-brand. If I could put myself in the same category as Claude Giroux, even if it's just for our positivity, then that is fine with me.
I mean, I respect it. I'm not even going to challenge it at this point, because on numerous occasions over the last month and a half, 2 months, I have noted you in tweets or on other shows or on our show as sitting here saying I'm coming along to your side of positivity. And so long as we're not talking Philadelphia Phillies baseball, I have found a way to feel calm and zenned out. Thanks to you. So sure, you could be the Claude Giroux of positivity in our group. And my tweet here, we've talked on Claude Giroux enough, but just I took a slightly different approach to this. The tweet is from Pico Power Play something rather. I don't know, it cut off. Guy's name is Jack. It says in quotation marks, Claude Giroux is not elite. And then his response was Amir Garrett, a gif of Amir Garrett, the Reds pitcher who was suspended for 8 games earlier this season for randomly just deciding, I think I'm going to fight the entire dugout of Pirates right now by my damn self. And I thought nothing was more accurate than anything that I scrolled through on Twitter and found, and the myriad of tweets that I had and saved and all these different things. I said, you know what? No, this is what I'm like. And this is what I have been like for years with Claude Giroux. I've made bets, side bets with Stephanie. I have made bets with Steve. I have sat here and defended him the way that you have defended this entire Philadelphia Flyers organization and Kevin Hayes and everything about this offseason. I've done that for Claude Giroux basically the entirety of his career. I got past that honeymoon stage with the same level of excitement to see him play each and every day, whereas that faded for a lot of people. And then the disrespect he got with the captaincy, to me, it just never went away. And nothing shows that more than if someone says to me, Claude Giroux is not elite, I would hope that I could channel my Amir Garrett and that I would get life suspended for 8 days, where I am just forced to live in the confines of my own home on some sort of house arrest because I fought the entirety of society defending Claude Giroux. That is my lasting comment here on Claude Giroux and where he stands for me as one of the all-time greats in Flyers history.
Absolutely. I know the GIF, so I can live with that.
All right, so let's, instead of going into something overly negative at this point, let's keep it on a positive, just because this is a rarity at this point. We don't typically have more than one positive thing to sit in here and talk on. So I'm going to take the next selection here, and I'm going to go with reactions to Roy Hibbert, hired as the player development coach for the 76ers. So I will start us off with, I have a few things here. So first of all, if you do not follow Roy Hibbert on Twitter, you should. And to me, there are very few times where someone gets tweets that kind of get called back after years and years and years kind of in the past. So this tweet is from 2014, and it kind of resurfaced when this announcement of Roy Hibbert was going to be a player coach or a player development coach here for the 76ers. So the tweet is, again, from Roy Hibbert himself. Just search it. He's the blue checkmark Roy Hibbert. Shout out to George Orwell for writing Animal Farm. One of the dopest books I've ever read. You got pigs walking right up windmills and more. What the fuck kind of tweet is that and a reaction to a classic novel? It was brilliantly entertaining to me, and there's a carefreeness about him, but there's a connectability there that, to me, is kind of what the face of the 76ers is. It's about, we are the city of Philadelphia. You know, they wear it on their chest. They go out there and everyone's a Mike Scott right now. They're all so interactive with the city, with the fan base. Every single time they enter the Wells Fargo Center, the way that they talk in pregames and postgames, to me, the ability and willingness to sit there and be open about who and what you are as a public figure, it cannot always be easy. But the 76ers and the organization as a whole find creative ways to continue to do that and to let people in. And it makes them feel like one of us. Like, it's exactly how I would consider watching Seinfeld while it was on TV. You know, as that show is going on, you grow attached to these characters the same way that we grow attached to our athletes in this city. And for me, I don't think a team does that better than the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think that finding a guy who, even for a tweet as funny and just far-fetched and out there as what that is, he's a guy who we can all relate to, and he's personable. And I think that our young players are going to relate to him a ton. The next one that I have is a quote from him. He had stated, and this was in an interview, I believe it was with Serena Winters, so I can't recall offhand right now, but the quote is, "I left at a time where I had made good money, I have a family, and I'm content. I just want to be a coach and hopefully give back to the younger generation." And that kind of coincides with that thing, that connectability right now. So if you know, we've all talked about it a ton at this point. Elton Brand was hired as a player development coach. 3.5 days later, it felt like he was the GM of the D-League or G-League, whatever they were calling it. And then Brian Colangelo and his wife conjured up some nuts Twitter scandal, and next thing we know, he's the GM of the freaking basketball team. Now, I am not saying that Roy Hibbert is going to go on any kind of trajectory like that. But one thing that we knew about Elton Brand coming in was the fact that he was not far removed from being a player. Roy Hibbert's 32 years old. He can connect to the aging veterans on the team, as few as we have, and he can sit there and be a positive impact both as a human being and as a leader on the basketball court, because he was very good at what he was good at for his short NBA career. I think he was in the league for 9 years. So for me, I didn't necessarily pull tweets. I pulled that quote and then his obvious tweet. But I could not be more excited to have what seems to be such a genuine good guy to fit the emotion of this city and to fit that locker room.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I didn't even take that stance or even consider that stance. But, I mean, it feels like I know that Philly is an Eagles town, and that's our heartbeats are in sync with the Philadelphia Eagles. But at the end of the day, you got to look at the personality, of the Sixers and that team in general. Like you said, like I follow some people on Twitter who Mike Scott actually responds to when they say something.
Hilarious.
Like he's all over Twitter.
He may be the thirstiest athlete in like Philadelphia sports history. Like he and Bryce Harper are like neck and neck right now for like the Thirst Award of Philly. But I love them both so much for it.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. But I mean, that personality that he brings, like you said, and at the age that he is, it's so important, especially for the young people that we have coming up, the Shake Miltons of the world, the Jonah Boldens. Like he is important for that, but he's also not so far removed out of the league that he doesn't understand an Al Horford or Joel Embiid and what they're going through or what they're going to need to do. And that's the direction that I took with this, was the importance to Joel Embiid. At Gavin_TD3 tweeted, "I'll be interested to see how Roy Hibbert does as a player development coach. More of a prototypical 5. It'll be interesting to see what he's learned from his time in and out of the league and how he'll help a player like Embiid." I think that this it's very important, Roy Hibbert, for Joel Embiid, because as we all talked about in our final going away show earlier in the year, we all said that Joel Embiid had to grow up. He had to become more mature. He had to become healthier. He had to watch what he ate. No more fast food. No more break dancing, whatever he was doing. No more of that stuff. And I think a guy like Roy Hibbert can really get Joel Embiid on the straight and narrow path because, well, Roy Hibbert was there at one point. Al Horford was there at one point. They were all that young guy who was just not connecting with the reality of it yet. Yeah. They felt they were invincible and they weren't connecting with the whole situation yet. And I think Joel Embiid, with the way that he broke down at the end of that last game, where we all shed a tear for him as well, we felt like that would be a turning point because he finally knew what it was like to lose something big, to be in a game that meant so much, and to lose it, and to know that you were that close to being into the conference finals, which so many were already putting them in the finals if they made the conference finals. So, like, just to think about all that. And Roy Hibbert, I think, will be great there as a player development coach for that reason. I don't think Horford needs it, but those young guys like Joel Embiid and Jonah Bolden, I think that Roy Hibbert will be huge. And I also saw another tweet talking about how this Roy Hibbert as a player development coach is probably just a sign of the Sixers' continued focus on the defensive end of the ball, which is clear.
Very much.
Because we got guys. I don't think there's a guy on this team with a wingspan shorter than me. So, I mean, like, these guys, they're going for defense, and they know how important it is because there's so many games that we may have went on cold stretches on offense, but the defense didn't help the situation. So having a guy like Roy Hibbert come in, he can really help solidify that defense just as much as he can help solidify the personalities and bring the focus during the season of the game back to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and Jonah Bolden, Shake Milton, all of them. All those guys who are on a team with an average age of like 26 years old. This is a type of coach we need.
So I'll pose you the question that Scott posed to me on TJ's One of Us this past week. Do you think we get some player coach action at any point this season if, God forbid, Horford goes down or Joel Embiid goes down for any extended period of time, or a Quinn or Bolden? Do you think at 32 years old that he'd lace him back up?
That's tough. That's a good question.
Because he used the word content in interviews.
I think if it got bad, maybe, but it would have to get really bad. I think things would have to be really bad for Roy Hibbert to say, all right, I'm going to take off my suit and I'm going to come out and play. I think it would take a lot. I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility, but I mean, it would be tough to imagine. I think Roy Hibbert is done with his career, and I think this is just part of the trajectory of where he wants his career to go outside of basketball. He can live in Philadelphia. He doesn't have to worry about playing. He may not necessarily have to travel as often with the team. But I mean, I don't think so. Yeah. It's hard to imagine.
Neither do I. I just found it humorous when he asked me.
It's like people every offseason just, I think it slowed down a lot this offseason, but the past couple off seasons, people were speculating Brett Favre. Every time his name came up, like they could be saying, oh, he might become a commentator. Oh my God, he might come back and play football again. Like that's that type of split reaction to news like that.
That's very true. It's an awkward comp because he's like, 53 now?
And I bet you he could still throw the ball better than most people in the NFL right now.
His arm is not. It can't be actual human DNA in that arm. I don't know what it is, but that guy could sling it better than anyone. Him and Elway, man. I just feel like their arms are always going to be rockets. All right, so we have really the only negative one we have is the Phillies here. So we have the Phillies and we have the Eagles quarterback situation. Which one would you like to go with?
Oh, let's go negative. I mean, it's kind of negative, but not overly negative. Let's go with the attempt to be positive with Gabe Kapler.
Okay. So I'll let you start that.
So I got his name's Mike at MD Schaff, I think. And he says, quote, "Fire Gabe Kapler, exclamation point," end quote. Why? So someone else can watch this wretched pitching staff and half a lineup. Managers in baseball are 95% meaningless. Klentak and McPhail have taken baseball from this city. And you know what? I could not agree more. At this point in baseball, you can probably pick any guy who's retiring and say, you want to manage my team, and they would probably come and manage. And there's a good chance, like look at the Yankees, that you can just have a guy come back and all he has to do is sit there. They're there for the analytics. That's what Gabe Kapler's here for, the analytics. If you think that he actually manages this team as much as some people think, and that there's this belief that Gabe Kapler controls the team and the game, I think it's quite clear it's Charlie Manuel at this point. But
what?
I mean,
no, it's not.
To believe that Gabe Kapler has that much of an impact on the team that is playing on the field, I believe is a little crazy to think, because I feel like managers are becoming kind of meaningless in baseball, and you could
not
pick
in the National League.
Well, I mean, it's up for debate. I would say it's up for debate, but I think what's not up for debate in this whole situation is that Klentak and McPhail saw the situation coming into the deadline. They saw the situation with Robertson. They saw the situation with Tommy Hunter, the McCutchen injury, the plethora of injuries that were plaguing us, and they went out and got Jason Vargas and Dickerson, and that was it. And they felt that was enough to say, okay, Kapler, we've given you what you need to go to the World Series, basically. And I feel like this statement is true, that they have taken baseball from this city, because it feels like they don't actually know what it takes to build a winning team. They think that they went out and forked out $330 million to Bryce Harper, and they're like, okay, we got a championship team right here. When really the disaster and the train wreck is the pitching up and down, whether it be the bullpen, who's been shaky at times and good at times, or the starters who have been extremely shaky at times and rarely good. That's where the situation lies, and they didn't want to enter into any salary cap, like dire salary cap situation. But when are you going to? Because to get this team there, they're going to have to enter that type of situation. They're going to have to enter into the taxes and just take that loss if you want to bring a championship baseball team back to Philadelphia.
So you didn't find anything supporting Gabe Kapler?
Well, this wasn't necessarily supporting Gabe Kapler. I guess it's saying Gabe Kapler's job's pointless and meaningless in baseball, which I'm going to agree with. But it shifts the blame. When we initially talked about this topic, Shane, you said shift the blame somewhere else, or put the blame somewhere else, or a positive spin on Kapler. How'd you do with finding a positive spin on Gabe Kapler?
I did find one, actually.
Oh, you go ahead then. Apparently I did the wrong thing.
No, you didn't do the wrong thing. You actually did exactly what I did. Just reread the actual text to you where I was like, fuck me. That being said, I would still, I'm bitter. I'll own this. I do think that NL managers are important. Unlike, I don't want to say AL managers aren't, but they have a far easier job. So when people mention the Yankees and mention what Boone does over there versus what Kapler does over here, it's apples and oranges to me. There is no comparison. But anyway, the tweet that I found, and my tweet that I found is a response to this tweet. So this is the original tweet. It says, don't blame the front office. Don't blame the coaches. Don't fully blame the players. Blame Gabe Kapler with an exclamation point. This is 2 years in a row in which the team has peaked way too early and has seemingly fallen off a cliff. That goes to the manager. Now, everyone, it's only natural. Everyone needs somewhere to point the finger, something to blame, and that's essentially what Mike Franco was for the players. He was a scapegoat, and it's essentially what John Malley is for the coaching staff right there in that coach's room. He's the scapegoat. They're not scoring runs, and this is what we can do right now to appease the fan base. We got rid of Franco. We got rid of Malley, And let's continue to shift this and try to find different tools to help Gabe Kapler and this Philadelphia Phillies team succeed. So someone responded to that and they said, you're right. Gabe Kapler didn't address pitching in the offseason or at the deadline. He also murdered our entire roster. He chose Franco over Moose. Get the fuck out of here, you idiot. And I found that brilliant because this is something that we've been preaching.
Is that you that responded?
No, it's not me.
I didn't hear the person's name or the @, so I'm like, I feel like if I go, I'll find Shane Mead attached to that.
It's like Bergatto.
Oh, that's why you didn't want to say it. That's fair.
Yeah. But the logic behind that all seems so true to me, and it's something, again, because this is the shit that I've been saying, and people who do support Gabe Kapler and his kind of coaching style or what he has had to deal with and endure, on the list of problems that this Philadelphia Phillies team this season has faced, for me, he is very low on that list. I will own and concede that over the last several weeks, it may not necessarily be the fact that he is not a good manager or wouldn't eventually be right for a position, but I will say it does appear that his players right now do not come to play for him. They may like him, they may come into a loose clubhouse, but there's this lack of assertiveness to the responsibility as to what it is to succeed as a baseball player. And yesterday, Acuna Jr. hit a ball to the wall and didn't run it out, got a single out of it. Snicker, in a very important game, benches him down 3-1. Benches his best player. That is something completely unheard of from Gabe Kapler. Now, I myself would not bench a player for those things. I know I'm different in that respect, but I sit there and I look that there is now a level of fear and not fear. There's a level of respect, maybe, for Snicker in that Braves dugout that says, shit, if I don't do my job, and if it's not abundantly clear that I have given 100% on any given play that I'm involved in, well, I risk being embarrassed and costing my team a game because he will yank my ass from the lineup. Now, Gabe Kapler would have to do that 50 times over in order to, I think, instill some kind of fear and respect from that clubhouse. And that, to me, kind of becomes the problem. I don't think that he's a poor coach. I think that he's had to endure a ton of different things. But ultimately, what it all comes down to is very much with that response tweet from Burgeragago, or whatever the fuck it is. Burgeragago. Fuck it. I don't know. But
it's a good try.
I'm giving it a go. But he didn't willingly choose to come into this new season not addressing a starting pitching staff. He did not murder an entire bullpen. Our best 8 or 9 relievers not named Hector Neris are out of baseball right now. They are not on a roster, whether they are hurt or whatever. He didn't do that. That's bad luck. That shit just happens. Michael Franco has fallen out of favor in this organization almost every freaking year he's been here, outside of 2014 when he came up for that half a season where he gave us all faith that he could be a baseball player. Gabe Kapler probably did not want him on the roster either. He would have much preferred a guy who's got 30 some home runs right now. He's got an OPS of, what the hell was it? It just looked like 873 or something. Like, they fucked up. They did not put him in the best position to succeed with a very, very flawed roster. And then shit just happened. And when shit happens, it's hard to get out of the quicksand. It's hard to dig yourself out of that kind of a hole. And that can't all be placed on Gabe Kapler. So I am shifting my blame to circumstance and to a very, very poor front office. And while I feel as though Gabe will most certainly fall victim to the circumstances at the end of this season, I will go on record saying that I don't think it's 100% deserved. It's just bad luck.
I couldn't agree more. It's a lot to do with luck, and it's a lot to do with circumstance. But I think that's why you see managers or why I believe the managers are meaningless statement is true in baseball, because they need to be given the situation to succeed. And you don't coach to the successful situation. You were given the situation, and Clentak and McPhail did not give the situation for him to succeed, nor did they give him the opportunity to be the best manager he could be, if that means that he gives a 5% meaning to the game, or 5% meaning to baseball, like this tweet seems to say.
I find this funny. So you stated that you don't think that managers in baseball are really that big of a deal. So you think that Charlie Manuel's coaching this team right now?
I believe they have respect for him. I don't believe he's coaching the team. I believe they have respect for him, and I think at this point they're playing that little stretch there that they got on. That was playing for him playing for the situation, a change in situation.
I think it's pride when someone, a part of your Phillies family, loses their job because you're ineffective, and then you wake up and you walk into the clubhouse that next day and, oh shit, Mally's locker's out, his coach's room has been cleared, and he's no longer going to be around because you sucked, because you didn't execute his plan. Never mind the fact that Mally's a dog shit hitting coach, but still, there is a level of pride. I think they did
execute his plan. That's a sad reality.
So, to me, there's still a human aspect of that says, man, that's embarrassing, and this guy's life just changed sooner than it had to because we failed as a clubhouse. We failed as a roster of Philadelphia Phillies offensive players. So to me, it wasn't necessarily Charlie. I think Charlie brought energy to the ballpark because it was a move made for fans, but I don't think by any stretch that, that they're went on this stretch for Charlie because Charlie was there for 72 hours. That to me is bullshit. This is an offense that's always been talented. They've just lost their way. And I think that pride has a lot to do with it. And when someone loses their job, you come in and you just act fucking different.
I guess for me, it's when you compare a manager across other sports, like a manager in baseball across other sports, look at the impact that Hackstall as a coach had, how urgent the need became to get him out because he was ruining the entire team. Look at how important Doug Peterson was, how instrumental he was to that run to the Super Bowl, to that win in that Super Bowl. Working with Nick Foles, working with Carson Wentz, working with two completely different quarterbacks and two completely different styles. You don't see those situations. We could talk about Brett Brown endlessly. You don't see that with Gabe Kapler. You don't see him do something that impacts a game that much. You take Doug Peterson away from that team for any reason during that Super Bowl run, I'm not 100% convinced we get to that Super Bowl because look how crucial he was to Nick Foles.
He was a psychologist. That's essentially what it was.
In a way, yeah. I mean, like he built that offense for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz went down. He rebuilt that offense for Nick Foles and built it around him. Built it full of run-pass options that were for him, that he could use to succeed. I mean, obviously he had them for Wentz too, but they worked a lot better for Foles. But you don't see Gabe Kapler doing that as a manager. You don't see those situations. You can't point out those situations and say, Bryce Harper, look at that. He hit that home run into the second deck that night, that grand slam, because Gabe Kapler did this pre-game or because Gabe Kapler's been doing this. So, I mean, I guess that's why I see the meaninglessness.
How much more do you want him to fuck around with? He's had 14 different leadoff hitters. He's put Bryce in 4 different spots in the order this year.
It's the analytics, and that's what he's there for, the analytics and making that.
You don't think that putting Rhys Hoskins in the leadoff spot right now isn't not about analytics? It's about trying to get a guy in one extra at bat, getting to see a different level of pitches and trying to get him to, I don't know, not suck at baseball.
I don't deny that that's impossible too, but I also do believe
he also put Andrew McCutchen. I was there the day that it happened in the Rockies series where he had Andrew McCutchen out there before the curveball machine ever became apparent to Phillies Twitter. This is like 3 weeks before that occurred. He was the one who was out there one-on-one with Andrew McCutchen, sitting there and working on different driving skills to get him to swing the bat out of the mini slump that he was in prior to tearing his ACL. And what did he do that night? Hit a fucking home run. he does do those things. The Phillies haven't won, and they're not a sexy team right now. That's why they go so underappreciated and undertalked. So to me, the same argument can be made that he is trying at this point. He is trying everything. And at a certain point, I want him to do nothing anymore. I just want him to say, for fuck's sake, Rhys, you need to use the whole baseball field. Go out there and fucking do it. I'm not going to keep doing all of these different things. It blows my mind how critical people are of him when some of his decision process is the same as that of what Doug Peterson's is. They're both psychologists of this game. They're both very analytically driven and very information driven, except one's won a Super Bowl and the other one has collapsed twice in August and September. One of them had talent on a fucking roster. The other one has Sean Rodriguez playing third base. So like, I can't sit here and say that Gabe Kapler is perfect. He certainly is not. I can't say that he has done a ton to sit here and reaffirm, no, you are the guy going forward. But he's done enough for me. And I take a look at all the things that were out of his control. And I think, no, he's okay. He deserves a third year. But I feel as though
I don't believe he needs to be fired. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he needs to be fired. And I think that keeping him around is probably a good thing for this team to have a bit of stability, given the John Malley and all the injuries and all the situations that have arisen. I feel like it's a source of stability. But
so let me ask you this before we roll into our final significantly more positive topic to talk about, and that is our favorite Philadelphia Eagles. What would you personally do if you were calling the shots for the Philadelphia Phillies and for that organization? What would be your approach? Would you go in to next season with Gabe Kapler in, again, lame duck managing? That is the final year of his contract. He's either getting extended or he's getting fired. That's pretty much the assumption all around. Do you willingly let him go in on a short leash and then risk a midseason change, which, again, you hinted at the stability factor. There is none right now in that Philadelphia Phillies organization. The most stable person on our roster and coaching staff is Rhys Hoskins, who is just not good at baseball right now. No. Do you risk that and say, hey, Gabe, we're going to start with you, but short leash, pal, real short leash, and you go Lavaliette style, where 3 series into the season, sorry, dude, you're done, and then hope someone else can come in there and implement either a different system or implement the same system but more effectively? Or do you say, we're giving you the entirety of that year, do with it what you can, and then we'll evaluate further? Or do you just simply make this change now, scrap the entire coaching staff and say, you know what, this is year 2 of 13 for Bryce Harper. It is year 4 for Rhys Hoskins, or 3 for Rhys Hoskins. That's it. We are starting fresh right now with a new coaching staff, and this is what we're going to carry through with.
I think I'd give him the chance, and I would give him the short leash, because I think the short leash can be effective. But I think it all comes back to Clentak and McPhail actually giving him the team he needs, not signing based on durability like Robertson was.
Oh, you can't fault that.
You can't fault that, but you need to sign just based on skill and not worry about the money,
Robertson's one
the
of the
finances of it.
Well, they're not going to worry about finances next year.
Because,
they have no reason
well, look at the situation. Yeah, okay, you got Robertson. At the end of the day, you look at it, would it have mattered if we got him or not? Definitely not. Would it have changed the whole instance if you had have went out and got a Baumgartner before the season started? Probably a lot more than a Robertson was going to affect it. If we not even with or without the
baseball games.
Exactly. So I think they need to go in and they have to find impact players like on the pitching side of the ball who are going to constantly impact. They don't like, I was happy they didn't go for Kimbrel. I don't believe that's enough impact to a baseball game. I think they need to focus on the starters and get rid of like Jake Arrieta, for crying out loud. Get rid of some of these people, whether
Jake's not opting out.
He's not opting out, but if you can get rid of him or figure out a way to get rid of him, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm of the belief that you give him the team to win with, and he will. And the team that we went in with, there was question marks all around it from after the Bryce Harper signing, all the way up until day one, all the way up until now. And I think you need to give him a team where you can sit there and say, okay, I don't think there's that many question marks. I think we got the team. But we went in and we said, oh, Nick Pavetta's going to break out. Or we went into this season saying, oh, what about Zach Eflin? We thought that these people would break out and they didn't break out, and we can't live and die off of people breaking out or people's potential. You have to go and you have to find people who you know will succeed and will help you win. And I don't think that they did enough of that this past season. So I say you give Kapler that chance, give him the short leash, and if it gets that bad early on and you know that you can sit there and you can say, we gave you the best team possible, then yes, fire him and use that short leash.
All right. Differing opinions on the Kapler thing. I respect the fact that you would go into next year with him. Before we roll into some Eagles talk, a quick word from our sponsor over at Just Food. 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. Catering service and also an in-store location in Buckingham, PA. That's Bucks County, PA, just above Peddler's Village. If you guys are familiar with that area, go visit our buddy over there, Asian Rob. Me and Steve went and visited him the other day. Steve got a shrimp salad, I think it was, some sort of vegetable pasta of some sort, and a red, white, and blue sandwich. I have no idea what the hell it was, but it looked delicious, and I'm just going to trust him because everything that he puts on the plate for you
is patriotic,
absolutely delicious. It certainly is. It is, again, Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Visit our guy over there, Asian Rob. Treat yourself. Take it home. Our final topic of the evening, the Philadelphia Eagles, while you guys were recording your Kelly Green Hour, brilliantly enough, losing
in the middle of arguing over whether Carson Wentz should play or not, which I'll be completely upfront. I still think he should play, even if it's one series. Call me crazy. I still think he needs to get out there this preseason, but continue.
I know I did laugh at you and LJ arguing with that. You guys are both very, very first takey. LJ had his stance. You had your stance. Neither of you were budging. We all listened for 15 minutes during that debate to no resolution of any kind, no agreement from either side, casually slipped on to the next topic. It was quite entertaining. So if you guys have not actually listened to that last episode of Kelly Green Hour, please go ahead and do so now. Now, in like 15 minutes when we're done this show, then just roll right on into a Kelly Green Hour with Connor and Elle. But while you were recording, Cody Kessler gets blown up and is treated for or taken in for concussion look. And in a move that seems to me anyway, as though this is probably something that was going to happen regardless during this preseason, whether or not Kessler stayed healthy, whether or not Sudfeld stayed healthy. I feel as though they were going to go in with a veteran backup to be a little bit more of a presence here. But the Eagles signed the man with the best hair in football, Josh McCown, 40 years old. He has a future in ESPN analyst, I think he is, whatever it was, maybe Fox. I can't recall offhand. But he put a hold on his career there to say, yes, I will 100% be cool with holding a clipboard for 16 weeks for the league's very best in Carson Wentz. So let's find a tweet here from each one of us that supports or trashes, if you are that guy, the now best quarterback in the backup quarterback's room in all the NFL. Connor, we'll start with you.
Well, I can definitely not say anything bad about this sign, and I'm gonna say that right now. As you know, me and Elle also debated bringing Colin Kaepernick back, and I was strongly against it with every bit of respect for Colin Kaepernick. I do not want him on the football team or on this football field, but I loved when I heard about Josh McCown. I love the experience that he brings. So my tweet here comes from, it was actually today. I had another one in mind, and then I saw this one today. So by John Clark at NBC Sports, Alshon Jeffrey was having a little bit of fun with his former Bears teammate and current Eagles teammate Josh McCown. Yep. He says they're getting a great player, but a great human being, a great leader, and all around great guy. And given the circumstances surrounding Nate Sudfeld and for some reason sticking his hands behind his back to go down, and then the whole situation around Kessler and what the hell was Dillard looking at on that play. We were down to Clayton Thorson, and we needed to inject this team with a reliable backup, but not one who was going to take up a spot for too long. The situation with Colin Kaepernick is he wanted a long-term deal. He's not going to come back for 1 year. He wants a longer-term deal. He wants to be able to come into the NFL and make money for longer than 1 year, or just be a place setter for 1 year. I'm of the belief that Colin Kaepernick wants to come back and he wants to be a starter, and he's not going to come back for 1 year at $2 million like we got Josh McCown for. Josh McCown has been a quite a stable piece on about half the team league's benches as a backup quarterback, and he has proven the ability to be a starter as well. I think if you could have thought of who should replace Nick Foles, I don't think they could have found a better person to replace Nick Foles in that position, even though we all know come week 3 and week 4 when Nate Sudfeld comes back, Josh McCown will, as you just said, hold the clipboard and could very well earn a Super Bowl ring as a backup quarterback for 3 weeks and then holding the clipboard for the rest of it. So, I mean,
I think he's going to be the one that's dressing every week.
Over Nate Sudfeld?
I do.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm not like huge like the Eagles on Nate Sudfeld. Like they think this guy's like probably the next like Peyton Manning sometimes when you hear the way they talk about him. But I am of the belief that Nate Sudfeld is the better backup.
He is, but he's uncertain and unproven. And to me,
he's definitely
in a Super
uncertain
Bowl
and
year,
unproven. I think given the circumstances, if it's a blowout game and we're in week 15 with a clinched playoff spot, Nate Sudfeld's playing those games.
Sure.
Not Josh McCown. Josh McCown has nothing to prove by playing those games. Nate Sudfeld has everything to prove by saying, no, you don't need McCown for his age 41 season. I'm good now. Good. So, I mean, I think Josh McCown is a great player, and I think he is a great leader, and I think he's going to bring, well, we already know the attitude of that locker room, and we already know just the general feel of an Eagles locker room. And Josh McCown, I believe, only makes that locker room better, and he helps us really see that Clayton Thorson is not going to be an Eagle this year. I think that basically when they made that sign, and it was not just as a place setter until Sudfeld comes back, I think it really was to tell fans, don't worry, we see what you see. Clayton Thorson is not going to be an Eagle this year. So maybe Josh McCown signing was a way of admitting fault, because they could have went out there and signed someone who wouldn't be on the team either. And Clayton Thorson and this other guy could have just duked it out for no reason. But they went out there and they got someone who's reliable and someone who they know they're going to take on their team. So I like the signing. And I think, I mean, for those who wanted it to be Kaepernick, I think at the end of the day, we have to be realists. This had nothing to do with blackballing Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick's a dog shit quarterback.
And it had everything to do with ensuring we know that we have Sudfeld, who we trust and have a lot of faith in, well, management and coach. And we know we have Carson Wentz, who we just signed to that big extension. We have faith. Why would we bring Colin Kaepernick back? It just made no sense. This move made every bit of sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, this was something that I kind of believe was in the works even before either of our backup quarterbacks did get hurt. I think that Clayton Thorson has played so underwhelmingly and has looked so lost, although he did have a better week 2 than week 1, though I don't know that you could have possibly gotten worse than week 1 unless you were Nate Peterman in an actual NFL game. I do think that he could probably clear waivers at this point and make it to a practice squad. I don't think anyone's beaten down the door to get Clayton Thorson. He's trash, and I think people understand that. And I'm fine with him on the practice squad. Like that is what it is. Like I genuinely don't give a shit. To me, I feel like they didn't bring anyone in that, and they talked about this on no, I guess it wasn't another podcast. I think he talked about it on WIP. They didn't really bring in anyone to challenge Nate Sudfeld or Clayton Thorson for that matter. Like Cody Kessler, get the fuck out of here. He's not challenging anyone. Everyone knows what this man is, and he's not better than Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld was going to make this team, and Kessler was going to walk. That's what was going to happen. Bringing in a 41-year-old quarterback who has, as you mentioned, played for damn near half the teams in the NFL. He has held clipboards for half the offenses in football, and he is very, very smart. He's going to analyze the game of football after a career in football. He is basically another coach out there. He is a safe bet at this point for a backups role. He is essentially what you want and what we would have looked for to replace Nick Foles. He gives you that. And then he gives Nate Sudfeld another person in the room to challenge him every single day at practice when he is healthy and challenge him to get better and smarter every single day. And Nate Sudfeld will be so much better. And I do feel as though his ceiling is high enough and he's an interesting enough quarterback, but it's going to get that much better and that much more raised, competing with a 41-year-old football kind of genius in Josh McCown. So to me, I feel like as though this is probably a conversation that they were already in the works with prior to either of the two of those guys getting hurt. There's no real need for him to be there for the first couple of weeks anyway. 41 years old, the man can go out there and do what he needs to do, and that is what it is. For me, my tweet was an Elliott Shore Parks tweet, which again, we rarely agree with him, and he is what he is. But his tweet is exactly and as simply put as what I would have said. Josh McCown is now the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Howie Roseman once again shows that he is all in on this season. Now, I don't know that he's definitely the best backup quarterback, but I think he's the safest option. I think that Ryan Tannehill should not be a backup quarterback. He is and should be a starting quarterback somewhere in this league. He's better than Marcus Mariota. You guys touched on that a little bit on Kelly Greenhour, so he could give you that run. Tyrod Taylor is out there, so there are other options out there that intrigue me more over a long period of time than what Josh McCown has, but I don't necessarily feel safer with them. And with him and Doug Peterson together and that offense with all those weapons, I really don't think it matters who's at the quarterback position. I think they're going to find a way to score points.
Oh, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more on the improving Nate Sudfeld portion of that take. It's definitely going to help Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld knows he's not going to lose his job to Josh McCown, but the knowledge that you can get from him, what he's going to bring to your game in the long run, I think is huge. And I mean, you don't really think about that at the signing, but Colin Kaepernick would not bring that to Nate Sudfeld. Josh McCown brings that to Nate Sudfeld, and he knows, like, okay, you're gonna compete with me and you're gonna make me work hard from the time I come back from my injury until we hope until after the Super Bowl, and you're gonna make me better. You're gonna make me a better player. You're gonna make me a smarter player, and you're gonna make me a reliable backup, a more reliable backup than I already am. You're gonna make Eagles fans love me like the coaching staff loves me. And like, I think I think this approach is more not just the reliability that McCown brings as a backup, but it has everything to do with Nate Sudfeld. Just as we talked earlier about Roy Hibbert and the impact he's going to have on Joel Embiid, I think this signing has more of a say in what they think about Nate Sudfeld. They think that we're this close, and we know that you're out for 3 weeks, but we think that this guy, who we're going to give $2 million to, is going to help you become a better player so that we can give you the extension to be that next Nick Foles behind Carson Wentz.
Or get him an opportunity to start somewhere. Make him a trade piece.
Yeah, make him a trade piece. Absolutely. But I mean, if the right trade isn't there, do not move him, because we know what we have in Nate Sudfeld, or we know what he's worth, and we know what a bit more experience can do for this guy. And we know the importance of a backup quarterback after the last 2 years with Nick Foles. So
14 of the last 16 seasons, the Eagles have used a backup quarterback.
Exactly. So what's wrong with keeping that backup quarterback?
Oh,
What's
I'm fine
wrong
with it.
with the safety?
Philadelphia has always
the
loved
safety net.
backup quarterbacks. Coy Detmer, we loved Coy Detmer, the neckbeard and all. We loved him. Michael Vick. Kevin Cobb we thought was the next coming, which is horse shit, but people thought it was real.
Garcia.
Yeah, Jeff Garcia. You take a look. We've always kind of had that intriguing backup there, Nick Foles.
I think that's the only soft spot Philly sports fans have is for backup quarterbacks.
And backup goaltenders.
But I think that's more of a pity one.
But it's more sarcastic. It's that sarcastic cheer that you would get after throwing 8 balls in a row and finally throwing a strike. But it's still an interest. We love the guys who shouldn't succeed. We love the guys who almost never get shots. We love the TJ McConnells.
We love the Mike Scotts. A guy who will just be all over Twitter harassing you.
And we love guys with great hair, and that is Josh McCown. Before we sign off here, do you have any segments that are coming out later this week outside of ours now? Do you guys have another Kelly Green Hour coming out or a People's Take that you want to talk about?
We absolutely do. I actually just got the topics for this week from LJ for the Kelly Green Hour. So you can definitely tune in. We're going to talk more Josh McCown, review the Eagles and the Jags, and preview the Eagles and the Ravens game coming up. And if you're not following along on Twitter, I'm sure me and Elle will be retweeting plenty of stuff about the joint practices that they have going on today or this week with the Ravens as well. So definitely going to have to check that out. I believe we're recording Wednesday night.
Awesome. That means I will have that up later Wednesday evening for everyone, so that way you can listen to that on your drive in to work or whatever you have to do on Thursday morning. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Shane_Mead. You can find him, Connor, at Twitter. It's at Connor10, right? How the hell do I never remember that?
TEN.
Yes, Connor TEN. Over there, he is a great follow, a far more consistent Twitter follower than what I would be. You can always follow the podcast on Twitter. It is at ANY Podcast. You can also review any of our newest articles that come out. We have a new team of writers that we're very excited about. Several of them are going to appear on an In-Cap We Trust in the coming weeks once one of them gets back from Italy. And we are excited about everything that they bring out and all the content that they have. You can find all of their work and our work, the podcasters of ANYP, at www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And then always be sure to rate and review the podcast. So we will read reviews as they come out. Anything that's worth reading, I should say, we will certainly read. If it is boring, we will not review that. So be funny, be sarcastic, be mean, be loving. Whatever it is, be creative in your reviews, and you can do that on your Apple reviews section. Connor, any final thoughts from you, sir, before we wrap out?
No, I think we hit on it pretty good this week.
Fantastic, and we even worked in positive talk on 3 of the 4 topics, kind of 3 of the 4 topics. It was a very welcome thing, especially in this household for me.
I'm definitely of the belief that we really got to get a poll up there asking if managers are meaningful in the MLB. I really got to see where we side there. I feel like this is.
I feel like you can't ask that right now.
I think
because
this
the Phillies
is where
are dog shit.
We can probably. It doesn't have to be the Phillies. There's 30 other teams. You don't have to sit there and rag about Kapler. You can think about Aaron Boone in this situation.
But here's the thing: you're asking a bunch of people who are emotionally invested into the failures of the Philadelphia Phillies right now. That is the entirety of our followers.
We're not saying for the Phillies. We're saying,
but we
general.
Represent the Phillies.
Well,
so all
take
of
your
our
investment out a little bit.
I can't make thousands of people sit here and say, let me turn my brain off for a second and not emotionally think about Gabe Kapler when I respond to this question.
You know what?
I'll
put it on my Twitter too. I got
yours. You got a better following.
I got 1,500 followers. I'll find it. I'm sure we can get some. I got some.
I'll retweet
Yankees and Red Sox fans. Yeah, you retweet.
And we'll do that, and yeah, we'll see how it rolls. The importance of an MLB manager. We'll have to word that very carefully as we sit there, as to not tip our hand in the fact that we're Phillies fans and we hate our life right now.
You just say how important are managers in the major leagues
today.
We don't even have to mention any team.
It's true. Well, hopefully you have a wider follower base and a more not versatile. What the hell's the word I'm thinking of right now? Whatever. A more well-rounded. Doesn't matter. Fuck it. I hope that whoever answers your poll question is not specifically Philadelphia Phillies fans, because then they will undoubtedly say that managers don't mean a damn thing, or they'll say they mean everything and Kapler's dog shit and fire him. One of the two things will occur. Before we head out, we would like to remind you to always make sure to help support our intro outro music group. That is the Jackdaws. They are fantastic. They will be performing live in New York and Philadelphia, which is, I think it's going to be in Lancaster County, I think is where they're going to be playing when they're in Philly, or the Philly area. They will be doing a bunch of Renaissance fairs and a bunch of local dive bars and things like that. So if you have enjoyed the Jackdaws, all of the music that brings us in and takes us out, be sure to go to their websites, www.jackdaws.com. Buy their CDs, buy their T-shirts, buy, well, whatever the hell they have on sale. They are great, great human beings and even better musicians. And I feel like I just said that backwards. Great musicians and even better human beings. There we go. The Jackdaws, and we will let them take us out mercifully now as I stutter and stumble my way through a closeout. Connor, until next week, sir. I'll see you.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever fight me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.